We hit it off because we were such huge Popeye fans and like old ancient jazz, 20s kind of stuff. Did a lot of them. Some of them were like kind of collaborations with other artists. That was one of them. That Popeye connection. More train wrecks.
Right.
More Popeye stuff. And that's what people kind of end up after our shows.
Lagerbacks and think about FBT. They were just dirty and great and grungy and loud. Awesome songs. Hollis sang great, sang his balls off.
You've got this hard-edged blues band, lots of distortion, and you know this guy just swing drummer, a jazz drummer, Jim Petropoulos. It's the oddest combination of elements that fits so well.
We had fun live, and then we brought more Popeye stuff into it. And then we were doing that so much, it got to the point went out and bought one of these little trash cans, turned it into a giant spinach can, and every take I'd buy like 3 bags of spinach, piled in there, and we'd do that song, we'd throw up spinach at the crowd.
So it's kind of like you had a performance art element into all these live shows too.
Only when it came to the Popeye angle.
To date, probably one of my favorite live bands, the Bosses Bottle. You get that train, the train would start rolling, and you'd start rolling with that train, and again, it was that reciprocal energy, and it would explode. It was huge. It was bigger than the room, always.
They were one of the best bands. I mean, I'm not saying it was better, but they were a great blues band with like a punk blues band, if you can imagine that, you know.
And that was a band everybody, it sounds like most people sat in with. It sounds like there was
a lot of people
a lot of cross-pollination with the bands, but that one specifically.
Right. Hollis was a great singer, and Jake Ranchereau, and they had a house down on Lafayette. They used to have great parties, so they were part of it.
Did you go to the Formalda House? Oh, all the time. You know, it's now called the White Slacker House by the guys who live across the street. Oh, we called it the Formalda House, but that was what they called it.
Explode. And we got a huge write-up in that.
Today in Brooklyn, tomorrow the world. And there's the bar. Okay, we have Formaldehyde Blues Train and the O-Rays over here. Oh, there's George and Alice, the dog at the bar. The bands chipped in $300 a piece and supplied their own master tapes, which were assembled into a record called Today Brooklyn, Tomorrow the World. And this quote from Frank Rizzitti, "I want to be real famous. I want to hang around backstage with Bon Jovi."
So the fucking phone rings the other day. I say, "Hello, can I help you?" And she says, "Is this Frank Museum?" She says, "Why don't you describe yourself to me?" I say, "Certainly, dear. I'm about 5'10". I got long hair, beard, kind of look like Jesus Christ in The Last Temptation of.
Well, Frank and I met in high school in theater class. He was walking down the hallway with an imaginary microphone interviewing people. So I fell in behind him with an imaginary camera. And this became a gag that we did for weeks.
She likes Led Zeppelin, he likes Public Enemy. They both agree they don't agree about anything.
came in one day in the lunchroom with a guitar, and he started playing Rock and Roll Suicide by David Bowie. I said, oh my God, dude, I didn't know you could do that. He goes, oh yeah, I want to be a rock star. If I'm not a rock star by 35, I'm going to kill myself.
I was working with 5 musicians, the Franks Museum Band, who were so incredible that we were in our own bubble.
I got into the band through Doug Hitchcock, who was a drummer. Well, the band was fantastic. It just was a great cast of characters. I mean, Frank was the leader, the main songwriter, the master of ceremonies.
Frank is a consummate showman. He derives this energy from the universe and it channels through him out to the audience, completely unself-aware. There's no more Frank, there's only the performance.
Frank's Museum was hectic circus that was big and joyous but crazy. You didn't know what was going to happen.
They had a special ingredient that no other band had, and that was Rossi Bright. And she had an operatic voice that just gave a whole different flavor to the band.
Frank was sweet enough and had enough of belief in me to have me join the band. You know, because I wasn't your kind of musician. I don't read music, I did everything by ear. And everyone were always so supportive and patient with me.
Rossi Bright, we had a very interesting vocal approach. A beautiful woman who was a great dancer, great sense of fashion. She did some of the artwork too. She's a great artist. And she sort of did the monkey. What is it, the monkey or the jerk? She had all her dances. She kind of balanced this really kind of raunchy looking crew of gentlemen. So we had sort of a beautiful focal point.
There were some chaotic gigs with Frank's Museum. CBGB's people jumping and diving off the stage. It was just insane. You'd come away bruised, you know.
Well, playing live was like ridiculous energy. That was the thing about this band. It was ridiculously energetic. We would kind of beat the crowd into submission with our energy. We did a song called Gandhi Lives in the Bhagwan's Body, which was basically just a sort of this long jam to get everybody to go and sing.
And its original length was about 11 minutes. And then we used to say, let's try and do a longer version. And at one of them, we did a 35-minute version. All shifted into a different universe for a little bit. I remember when we all came off the stage, we were just hugging each other, and it was almost like weeping.
You guys were very popular. You had a local fan base that was really strong. There was one couple who, we don't know if they met at Lauterbach's or they were previously dating and they were regulars at Lauterbach's, and they got married. They had the reception over at the picnic house in Prospect Park, and they booked Frank's Museum to play.
Well, we were always on the hunt for money to record an album. So we got this opportunity to play a wedding. And weddings are like the big moneymaker. I think we were making like $800 or something. And unfortunately, I think what happened is they waxed the dance floor before the show. We played such a high energy show, people were going bananas, everybody was dancing. All of a sudden, the dance floor parts and you see this guy on the floor and his leg is pointing in the direction it shouldn't point. He broke his leg.
I'm in a wheelchair out of control. I'm in a wheelchair out of control.
That was pretty crazy. Never expected it at the wedding. And then they reached out to us later, and Matt was fine, and he was hiking again.
And I just remember them taking him out on a stretcher. You know, he had a broken leg, but he was giving us the thumbs up because he enjoyed the performance so much.
That crowd would be very receptive. All the bands played slightly different styles of indie rock, but we all liked the differences that complemented each other.
Squawk some help. They're like the longest living band in New York.
They're still making music.
Yes, yes, yes. The band in the Killers, their logo.
I don't know how that happened. I really don't. I can't give you an answer. It's got a life of its own. I had children, I had everything. Somehow, it just kept going. And people left. And when a guy left, I almost thought that was the end of it. And somebody fell right in. And they usually fell right in pretty good.
I felt a kiss on my cheek. I'll take a name on my chest.
We had a lot of turnarounds. It was really me and Joe Kahn. We were the strongholds, and he passed away. I wrote the music, he wrote the words. That's how we strung things along. And when he passed away, that was a rough one. I said that's about it. You know, I can't even go up on stage without him standing next to me, you know. And our drummer was with us 17 years, it's a long time in Squirrels from Hell. He said, no, we're gonna keep it going, you know. I said, well, do what you gotta do, you know. And he pretty much helped me along. He got me going.
Like that first album, Today's
Brooklyn, Tomorrow the World.
the bands on that, those are the bands I remember playing around when we first started.
Yeah.
You know, and then by the time it got to Beat This, there were like twice as many bands, and I didn't even know half of them. and then it just grew from there, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
I just want to say that Pete Rose is innocent. The next William Shakespeare, ladies and gentlemen, Al Lee Wire.
He's right about Pete, wonderful person and Christian saint that he is. Well, I woke up tonight about 8:45. I thought I'd hit the city, felt like making some time. So I walked into this local dump to hear a rag band play.
They were all my favorites. All of them had something.
She was a 5 a.m. beauty and she made me scream.
Ali Wire was sort of a journeyman songwriter. He was a subway worker. He'd come with his subway outfit to gigs.
So I call him the troubadour of Logger Bags. It was fantastic. He was also a bus driver.
She's giving them hell down on High Street. The skirt's getting shorter and top's getting low. I feel like I come from a track meet. My heart beating faster than I've ever known.
Ali, Mr. Subway Man, God love him to this day. Probably, and I've said this for a long time, probably one of the best storyteller singer-songwriters I've ever had the joy to witness. Allie would pick just the most mundane of everyday occurrences in New York and would weave a story around them that was so memorable.
Either way, it's a trip down on High Street tonight. You see the way it's a trip down on High Street tonight.
Such an amazing player, mastery of pedals like nobody's business. And it wasn't just a technique or a technician, they were an extension of his playing in the sense that he could get sounds out of those guitars that was just like, wow, where did that come from?
Is that better? You heard it now? We search big ideas, we use what since peers, it's easier. We break down above, but in our path is freehand. Living in a jar of frogs. Oh, that sounds great. Do it again. Living in a jar of frogs. Living in a jar of frogs.
Is this gonna go anywhere?
Well, just put the recording on and I'll show you. Living in a jar of frogs. Living in a jar of frogs. Living in a jar of frogs.
Now, Cryptic Soup was this. I always thought of them as like a cult. They were like beyond progressive. They would have a song, da 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 do 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 da da da. Hey baby, and then we're going to a swing.
I got into Cryptic Soup because I was working at a very large corporate law firm at the time. Vinny was working at the same firm. We were both extremely into the Beatles, and we were both into all the obscure Beach Boys music, not the earliest Surfing Cars, but all of Brian Wilson's kind of, and we would trade tapes all the time. And he kept telling me about his band, Cryptic Soup. So I actually went to see them at Lauterbach's play before I joined the band. I was at Lauterbach's. We jammed together a few times, and he just said, like, Johnny, I want you in the band. Vinny, what are you talking about? He goes, no. Like, we're recording some stuff right now, but you gotta be in the band. You gotta start playing. Even though that first album I was on, they had the whole thing pretty much totally recorded. They brought me to the studio so I could add at least one track on every single song. We were recording out at Mixolydian Studio, and I'd bring every instrument that I owned. Vinny just wanted me to play something on every single song.
I felt like Cryptic Soup was like Yes or Genesis meets Brooklyn Beat, because the songs were so complicated and elaborate, but again, very, very unique. And you had the brothers, Eddie and Vinny, who I both worshipped. And I was lucky enough to play in a band with Eddie about 5 years ago. And still to this day, one of the best drummers I ever played with.
Like they had a third gear. Like they'd get through the first 2 years and then they'd jump into the third gear. And then it was just, from there on, they would just roll.
Technical expertise. These guys would play these crazy time signatures and change them. You know, 3 different time signatures in a song.
A lot of songs that we did were in time signatures of 5 or 7. We had one song that we did that was, believe it or not, I call it was 19. Because it was, each verse was in 2 parts, a 10 and a 9. And how we managed to keep that together, I have no idea. Something about that time, it just seemed so exciting, and I was able to do that.
I think the Brooklyn Beat was very much representative of what was going on in a lot of cities around America at that time. It wasn't so much a direct influence on something, but it was a mirror of what later happened in Seattle. It was a mirror of what, the punk scene that was in DC, a mirror of some things in LA.
Barbara wore halter the other day and attacked to attract all the guys that would fly away. You can tell that she has what it takes. A great figure and a lovely face. Man magnet is what you call yourself. Anyone caught in her power couldn't help themselves. It's kind of tricky how this farm's gonna fit, but that girl's so put life up.
That was the idea of Like West Flathead, combining like pop songs that are sort of alternative rock with dance music. Something in the air was happening because that became a very big thing in the following years. And we played with a drum machine, so I had no intention of getting a drummer, especially because a lot of the songs had kind of a dance beat. And Cynthia, my girlfriend, soon to be my wife, it was all about the drum machine.
But does it really much matter to your every day? How can you know when you know what you feel? Is what you know you feel the real deal? Here's one thing that's very concrete. My friend Barbara in a halter
He was a neurologist at the time at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. And everybody was like, oh my God, she's a rock and roll keyboard player and a neurologist.
Alec, who really is inspired by the Beach Boys, mostly more than anybody, wrote great lyrics, wrote great pop songs. His wife at the time was a really good piano player, had a nice vocal touch.
Alec and Cynthia, I loved their interplay on stage. And then with them being a couple too, it was interesting because personally I haven't had that experience where I could be on stage with my other half. That would never have worked for me. And watch them work together and work off of each other. Again, it didn't feel like a competition. It was just this, we're gonna make this work together.
As being in a band